Welcome back to the live stream, y'all. It is Brian. So, I'm holding myself accountable. I was a little bit late to the stream, but I want to make this kind of my destination on Friday afternoon so I can make sure that I get stuff knocked out and have a more restful weekend. And so that's really what this is about. So today's episode is same thing we did last Friday. Essentially, we're going to be working together, body doubling. I got some things I need to knock out. Hopefully, you have some things you need to knock out. Let me go ahead and put up the rules real quick. And I'll kind of explain it as I'm doing it, y'all. So the idea is for ADHD brains, body doubling is an amazing way to get things knocked out. Um, it allows you to get tasks completed, and you have somebody else kind of feeling like you're working sitting in the room next to you, if that makes sense. And so what this live stream is an opportunity to have somebody body double with you so that you can knock out tasks. Let me go ahead and make sure my stuff is set up the right way here before I get too far into it. I want to make sure my audio is audioing. I want to make sure my live stream is streaming. And we will go ahead and roll the intro and get started. But like I said, today is some task completion stuff, body doubling, work stream, live stream. The idea is I'm here virtually in the room helping you, having another person working next to you. And for ADHD brains, and sometimes even just people that are not neurodivergent, just having another presence working next to them allows them to stay focused on their tasks. It's kind of feeling like an accountability measure. And so that's what this is. The rules are, if there are rules, the rules are pretty basic. So I'm going to work, and then every 10 minutes, we're going to take a quick break. And during that break, I can answer marketing questions or talk about ADHD or business development questions or whatever you guys want to discuss. And we had a pretty good conversation last week about SaaS, software as a solution marketing. But really, that's what this is. This is an opportunity for you to knock out some work. I'll knock out some work, but you're getting the benefit of having somebody else kind of working next to you so you can stay on task and knock stuff out. So that's what today's live stream is. And I want to do these every Friday. Like I said, it allows me to knock out work before the weekend so I can have a more restful weekend. So bring whatever task you've been avoiding, bring it in, let's sit down and let's work on it together. So I'm going to go ahead and find my timer, and we're going to get started here after the intro. Peace. If I can find my intro. So I'm setting my 10-minute timer. The timer's going to go off, and it's going to go off every 10 minutes. And once the timer goes off, I can I kicked myself out of my own stream. So I'm gonna set a timer, and every 10 minutes I will pop on and answer questions. But this is just an opportunity for us to knock out tasks together. And I want to set it kind of as a resource for anybody that needs that extra person in the room so they can stay on task and stay on top of what they wanted to stay on top of. So um, like I said, I'll answer questions in the middle. So I'm going to put up my banner and we'll be on our first sprint. All right, we're just about done. We're about to wrap up here. So we got about 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the sprint. Stay with me and I'll be available to answer questions here. All right, so that's our first 10 minutes. Hopefully you guys got something accomplished out of that first 10 minutes here. Um, But yeah, so that's the concept, guys. Like, and stay with me. So what this is not a traditional live stream where I'm talking most of the time. This is going to be more about getting stuff done, focusing on getting tasks knocked out, and giving you guys opportunity to have somebody else working next to you so that you can bring your task. I understand it's Good Friday, and a lot of people are off or taking time off, which is cool. That is really, I don't have any issue with anybody ever taking time off. Um, the idea for this thing is um, the way that we run is body doubling. It's really um, an opportunity to have somebody working next to you and getting things done, um, so that you can feel the sense or feel the presence of somebody else in the room. And ideally, it's for if you've got difficult tasks or tasks that are harder for you to focus on or even initiate, bring them to the stream. And by having somebody in the room, or kind of in the room, it allows you to feel their presence and maybe helps you stay on task or gives you a little bit more extra willpower to blast through there. And so that's what this is about. But again, every 10 minutes we stop, we chop it up a little bit, I answer marketing questions, um and it feels like a traditional live stream. So I really do hope that, I want to start this as something that I constantly do. And I do really hope that you guys start seeing some benefit of it. And we kind of build a community of Friday afternoon, knocking out your work and having uh, this live stream on in the background to get the sense that you're working next to somebody, because that's really what body doubling is all about. So, um, I'm gonna stay on here. I'll probably start my sprint here in about 5 minutes. Okay. Um, so just to give you guys a snapshot of what I have on my agenda for the day. So during the first sprint, I posted some social media content for a client. I do produce and distribute several podcasts. And so one of the ones I'm distributing, we've been really good at uh, basically dropping an episode every day, or not episode, but a new clip from the recorded episode, pretty much on a daily basis, and that's been allowing us to enjoy some pretty steady growth. Um, one of the challenges is, when one of the challenges is when you are trying to grow on a platform, there's so much information out there about this is how you grow and this is how you do X, Y, and Z. And there are no hard and fast rules of social media, aside from make content that people connect with. Um, but there are no real hard and fast rules about frequency of posting, frequent, because anybody that tells you there's a specific frequency of posting that's like the magic tool or magic, um, like a magic trick or something, or it's like this is the magic answer, is lying to you. There is no specific cadence, or if I post every day or every other day or 3 times a week, or you know, there is no specific cadence. Here's the reality. Specifically on platforms like Facebook, more times than not, um, maybe, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30% of your audience sees anything that you post. And it's going to show it to a different segment every single time. So your entire audience doesn't see everything you post in most cases. And that's so that they can incentivize you to buy ads and do boosted posts so that you can blast it out to um, other parts of your community. But for business owners specifically, when you have these pages on Facebook and we post on them, you get disheartened when you post something that you think is amazing and nobody likes it or anything like that. The reality is they probably haven't seen it. It's not pulling up on their page. The Facebook algorithm isn't showing it to them. And it's nothing personal, but it's looking at what their normal interests are. And they may like your business, but if your business doesn't align what Facebook has determined are your interests, it won't show it to them. And so when you're posting on social media, the biggest thing is be consistent for you. Okay. So if you're going to post once a week, then you stay to it and post once a week. If you're going to post daily, stay to it and post daily. With this specific podcast I'm distributing, we've had a lot of success with the daily clips from the episode. It's done really, really well. It's grown the podcast pretty substantially over the time, over the 3, 4, 5 months I've been involved with it. And so this is the cadence that we're on. Um, I use my other tools to clip longer form episodes into bite-sized clips and then distribute those. And then when a new episode drops, I drop the episode. I write an article for LinkedIn that kind of summarizes the episode, and we post it or blast it across social media. And it's a pretty good flow. Um, and to the point where the newsletter that we've been writing on LinkedIn is actually getting pretty good traction off of a few episodes because we really just started this thing. And so, but there is no specific magic to it. The magic is whatever your audience connects with and what you're able to do. If your audience connects with something that you don't necessarily enjoy or aren't able to do consistently, you're setting yourself up for a problem. If you set a cadence that you can't keep up on and you know that it's difficult, you're going to have a problem. So pick something that's going to be easy for you to stick with, to start out with. Okay. So I think we're about ready to go into our next sprint. Okay. So what I'm going to do, let me edit this so y'all can see what y'all can see what it is here. Okay. All right. So just so that there are no questions why I'm sitting here staring at the screen while y'all are staring at me. Um, the idea is an opportunity for us to work next to one another to get some tasks knocked out. And that's what the space is for. So, and then every 10 minutes, if you got burning marketing questions, leave them in the comments and we'll chop it up and we'll talk about them. I'll answer them on the stream. So we're about to start our sprint now. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes on the current sprint. All right, so that's our 10-minute sprint. Um, like I said, I'm not expecting a lot of traffic on this one on this afternoon, just because of the date. It's a holiday, and so I'm not expecting that you guys are going to have a ton of work to get done. But it's important for me that I remain consistent on this path, um, with knocking stuff out, because it's a way of holding myself accountable. Um, you know, for me fulfilling what I said I'm going to do, um, and creating a space, um, for um, ADHD business owners. You know, and one of the biggest challenges with for ADHD people with ADHD is consistency and showing up the way that you say you're going to show up. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that I show up the way I'm supposed to and remain consistent when if I say I'm going to show up on the live stream and do a co-working live stream, then I'm going to show up and do a co-working live stream and to give you guys opportunity to do it. Um, my live stream on Monday was talking about getting started with recording yourself. And if you want to learn like some of the bare basics of what it takes, if you're interested in building a platform and recording yourself, I encourage you to go watch that video because I give some bare basics in terms of what that looks like. It doesn't have to be an elaborate setup. Right now, I have a microphone I bought for like $80 and a webcam I bought for like 70. And so that's my entire setup. And it's just plugged into a computer. And I got a couple of lights. It's nothing too extreme. If I was in a room where I had more access to where the sun actually came in, then I would be using natural sunlight to drive that. So let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna stay on here for about 5 more minutes talking, and then I'm gonna go finish. We're gonna go back into the next sprint. I'm kind of doing a little bit of um, design work for a client, and so um, I'm jumping in here to you know make sure that the design looks good and clearing up some stuff, so I can send them a proof. Um, when I say I'm a marketing coach and a marketing consultant, I do a lot of different things. I wear a lot of different hats, and I am fully aware of that. That I wear a lot of a lot of hats. And so I'm not trying to I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think everybody needs to kind of have that same mind frame that I do, but I do like what I do. And sometimes it does involve it involves me doing stuff that's inside my wheelhouse, outside my wheelhouse, adjacent to my wheelhouse. I do a lot of different things. So yeah, I'm doing the task I have in the background is some design stuff. I'm gonna send them some proofs. And then before this is before I put all the dates and all the other stuff on it because I found when I'm doing client work, the thing that will absolutely sap my willpower and desire to want to work on something is if I spend a whole lot of time finalizing stuff and I send it over and they're not happy with the design. So I'd rather have the design nailed down where they're like, okay, I like the design. And then I could put the details into it. I could put dates and times and all the other stuff that goes along with it. But I want to finalize the design aspect of it. Just because um, the design piece is the biggest pain in the butt, and that's just that's just real. Like the design piece is one of the hardest pieces to knock down because people are really peculiar about aspects of design, and I get it, especially if it's paid client work. I completely and 100% understand. So, what I like to do is I like to make sure that when I'm working on stuff, I send over what the design is going to look like before I put the details on it. So it's not a finished copy of it. That way, um, I don't destroy my momentum. And so and that it makes it easier for me. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to send over the design, and this is before I put any detail into it, and then let the client know, hey, this is what the design looks like. um Yeah, this is me sending over the design basically to get the approval on the design before I finalize the details, so I can save myself time and frustration. Because one of the things with ADHD that people don't know, or they do know if they have it, is sometimes you are super sensitive. You're oversensitive to rejection to a point where the smallest rebuff on something you're doing will absolutely derail your whole day. And so by being cognizant of it and structuring my day and structuring my workflow so that I allow for, okay, they may not like a lot of it, they may not like pieces of it, but at least I get a chance to, um, get clarification so I can figure out what I need to work on. So that's what I'm doing today, man. Wrapping up loose ends for the weekend so I can kind of chill a little bit this weekend. I never 100% completely chill on the weekends, y'all. I just don't. I work pretty much 7 days a week, and I don't have a problem with it. Like, it doesn't bother me to be working on something, for a business, um, for my businesses 7 days a week. I'm just used to it, and I integrate it into my life, and it's not draining or depleting or anything. It's something I actually like to do. It's not being a workaholic, but it's just that's the way my workflow is because I don't have traditional work hours. So I do work about 7 days a week. For business owners, I don't like the hustle culture thing of you got to be willing to destroy your entire life for it. But at the same time, you do work longer hours when you're a business owner. You work odder hours when you're a business owner. You know, a lot of times when everybody's off, I'm doing some kind of work for one of the things I'm involved in, and that's just part of the game. Okay. So I think we're about ready to start the next sprint here in about 3 minutes. I'm gonna aim for 12:30. Um, Oh, I'm breaking my own rule. I'm working and I'm not ready. I'm not supposed to be working. This is supposed to be live stream stuff. Okay. So, um, let's see. Oh, one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm repurposing the live stream from earlier this week, and I'm repurposing it to social media content. Um, just because that's the best use of how this stuff is, that's the best use of um, the longer form content. For me, it makes more sense to get in here and repurpose these things so that, you know, how do I say it? I like to build it once and then reuse it forever, as opposed to um, building it and always having to build new stuff. I don't think that that necessarily serves a purpose. And I think that's how you get on the content creation treadmill and you burn yourself out by trying to overdo it. Some people are built for it, especially if you really enjoy it. If you really enjoy it, then you're not necessarily at risk of burning out. But I've seen people hop on and say, well, I'm going to post every single day. And about 3 weeks in, they're yielding because it's not easy to continue to come up with new content. And again, for ADHD brains, it can be a challenge. It can be one of those things you set it, basically set the ground rules for yourself to have an overwhelming task that hangs over your head, as opposed to making it something that's simple, replicable, and not overly taxing. Because more times than not, when especially if you're a business owner, you have more than one task or one priority to knock out. That's it. So we're about to jump back into the next sprint. And so pop on if you got marketing questions or want to talk about ADHD or anything. And that's what I'm here for. So we're going to be starting this here now. We're in sprint mode. I can work out. Well, I need to change that. buddy, man, as much time as ChatGPT can save helping you reorganize your thoughts, it will absolutely lie to you about things. Crazy, bro. Had to chastise my AI. But I do need to change a couple of things here. Yeah, as it stands right now, I have a couple of low leverage tasks that actually are requiring my urgent attention. Um, I'm not a big fan of a low leverage task, but sometimes you got to pick um, the devil you don't like. You got to pick the devil you know. And so I'm doing a low lever. I'm doing what I consider to be a low leverage task, but it has to be done. It can't not be done. Wow, that's not what I'm looking for. I feel like my life is dominated by Chrome tabs. We got about 3 minutes and 45 seconds left on the sprint here. So I'm trying to hustle to get this stuff done. All right, we're about done here with the sprint. Um, Again, like I said, I know that it's a holiday and people are taking time off, but I really wanted to show that consistency, hop on here and offer an opportunity to do some working, knock out tasks that you have pending while having somebody kind of virtually working next to you. And that's kind of the entire concept of this thing. um, just to give yourself, just to give us all an opportunity to knock out tasks before the weekend. Business owners, non-business owners, just punching in and giving opportunity to co-work together. So right now we're outside of our sprint. Um, I can answer any marketing questions, content creation questions, ADHD questions. I can answer them to the best of my ability. Um, Last week we had a pretty good, lengthy conversation about marketing, apps and software as a solution tools. Um, just um, talking about the different philosophies that underpin it, and there's a lot of crossover. I think a lot of times when we talk about marketing, let's break it down to brass tacks here. um, One of the things is I hear the word marketing and sales and advertising and all this stuff being used interchangeably. Okay. Marketing is the discipline. It's the discipline of finding the market who's going to help drive your sales. They're going to buy your products. Um, and advertising is like a hammer in the toolbox of marketing professionals. Okay. Um, but there are other types of marketing that's not necessarily related to straight up advertising, because advertising is essentially, here's our product and this is where you can buy it. That's the advertising philosophy. My marketing is a little bit more holistic. um, I do think that, and I actually posted a friend's podcast where they were talking about this. People buy and people follow people, not businesses. Okay. They follow brands that align with who they feel they are as a person, or who they want to be, or who they aspire to be as a person. They don't follow businesses. And a lot of times when we are doing marketing stuff, we end up um, leaning too far into the product side and the business side of it, and we forget that there's a human element to it. Especially when you're a small business, people choose to do business with the person that's running the business. Okay. And we take a lot of humanity out of the way that we market things. Like I said, marketing for me isn't just generating the sales, it's building the brand, it's building awareness, um, it's establishing who that brand is relative to the market that it's trying to serve. So I'm saying all that to say this: marketing isn't just advertising for me. Marketing is educating your audience about their purchase decisions. So, educating them and telling them, hey, this is how you make a good decision when you're looking to buy this specific service. This is how you make a good decision. This is how we make the thing that you want to buy from us. Here's some helpful information so that um, you know that when you're ready for this specific service. Here's something that we just thought was cool and entertaining that we wanted to share with you. Here's a piece of knowledge that can help you immediately and solve an immediate problem that you may be facing. These are other elements of marketing, okay, that get overlooked because we end up locking into the sales side of it, and then it ends up being feeling manipulative because we lock onto the super hyper transactional side of it. And while there is a transaction that does take place, um, there are other aspects of it, because you can market a nonprofit, you can absolutely market charities, stuff like that. It's just finding the people that want to be involved. That's the process of marketing. That's the concept of it. And I do think people um, kind of sell marketing cheap, if that makes sense. Or they think that posting random things on social media at an intermittent basis is marketing, and that is not. It is not. So one of the things I tell people if they own brick and mortar stores or places where people actually walk in is marketing is how the staff who's working there greets the people as they walk in the door and how they treat every customer that comes in. That's marketing. So talked enough. Um, let's go ahead. If there aren't any questions, if you got marketing questions, drop them. But if there aren't any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and get it started on my next sprint. And this sprint will be different. If I see if people post comments or have questions about ADHD business ownership, getting started as ADHD business owner, sales or marketing, or anything along those lines, I'm here to answer it. I'm basically your online resource for that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and start the next sprint, and we'll see where it goes. So we're starting the next sprint. If you got a task, let's go ahead and knock it out together. I'm here working next to you. So for the next 10 minutes, we're going to lock in and we're going to get this thing done. That's the agreement. All right, we're about halfway through this sprint session. If you got any work or any questions or anything, give me a shout. All right. Yeah, I'm working on a couple of different things. So my sprint's going to look a lot different. Some of it's going to be computer, some of it's going to be on my phone. We kind of all over the place here. All right, the sprint is done. Okay. Um, Here's the thing. I'm actually trying to stay disciplined to stop working and give myself my 10, to give myself a break after every 10 minutes. Because I'm trying to work straight through. My hyper focus is absolutely kicked in, and I'm zoned in on like three or four different tasks that I'm pushing ahead on. And so that's actually the challenge, which is crazy. It's not me not locking in on tasks and being off task. It's me locking in too much on the specific task that I want to have to do and forgetting that the purpose of the live stream is to still live stream a little bit and still communicate with the audience. So that's what it is. Again, this is the body doubling live stream. Basically, it's a resource to allow you, if you got some tasks that need to get done before the weekend, just to have the sense of somebody else working in the room next to you. It can absolutely keep you on task and allow you to power through when your willpower is running out. And so, it also helps with ADHD and dopamine and all that other fun stuff. But anyway, but yeah, that's what the purpose of this live stream is. And right now we're on a break where I can take questions about marketing issues or marketing topics or anything like that. So, so right now we're on a break. And really, I'm not really, again, it's weird. I'm not, this is more of an accountability thing for me personally. I'm personally holding myself accountable to get on this live stream on a holiday weekend. And I wanted to jump on here to do the work, but then also answer marketing questions, answer business questions, answer questions regarding ADHD. That's what the intention and purpose is. So, and right now we're on the break. I'll probably be starting up the next timer in about, or the last timer in about 3 or 4 minutes. So if you have questions, you just want to shout out and you just want to say, hey, I'll even take that. But again, this is what this live stream is. The purpose of it is to allow you an opportunity to have somebody in the room working next to you. Couple of housekeeping things. This format, the way it looks now, it may not look like this in the future. I'm playing around with another multi-streaming tool, which is free. And free sometimes is better, sometimes it's not better. But in this case, I think free is going to be better. Um, and it gives me a little bit more power. So I'm going to be taking this live stream off of StreamYard and be putting it on a different streaming service, just because it allows me a little bit more opportunity. But if you're on, send me a question, give me a thumbs up, say what's up, say hey or whatnot. Again, I'm here to answer any marketing questions. I'm here to be kind of a resource. I'm here to answer business questions. I'm here to be a resource. And so that's what this is about. So on Monday's live stream, like I said, I talked about the simple way to set up, for recording and stuff. And the reality is, most of us are walking around with the perfect recording device in our pockets. We already have it in our hands, which is our phones. Our phones are an amazing way to get started if you want to build a platform or record yourself. And business owners need to be recording themselves. I'm be honest with you. Like, you need to be creating content that's talking about what you do, especially if you're going to be trying to utilize social media. Just using your social media as a billboard to blast out your ads isn't a great way to engage your audience. And you may end up building a big audience, but they're not going to pay any attention to what you do if it's content that doesn't necessarily enlighten them or help them or move them forward in any measurable way. I do think that people misuse social media a lot of times when it comes to letting the world know about their business or nonprofit, and they only use it as a place where they uh, solicit transactions instead of making it about how can we be of service to you, how can we help you in some measurable way. And so when I talk with my clients, when I do social media management for my clients, one of the big things is making sure that there's a mix of content. It's not just always asking for a sale. That's important, but you can't make that the bulk of what you do. You need to help people. You need to help people solve their own problems, um, or answer questions or entertain them or something along those lines to keep them engaged. More times than not, businesses and nonprofits do misuse their social media because all it is, it ends up just being a billboard for whatever they got. And we are conditioned to drive by billboards without paying a heck of a lot of attention to them unless we're sitting at a stop sign. But as we're flowing, as we're, going through our day to day, it might be something we see out of the corner of our eye. But, you know, I think that by using your social media as just as simply a billboard for whatever product or service you're selling, you actually are misusing the platform. Because I'm not saying misusing it, but you're not using it to its full capability. Because the aspect of social media is about being social, interacting with society to a degree. Now, it's a virtual society and sometimes it's a full of shit society, but it is a society nonetheless. And so the aspect of social media for business owners is you do have to be social. It can't just be you posting just raw pitches to your product or service. It is not the use of the product that makes sense. And it's not going to retain or attract clients the way you think it is. If all you do is just blast out what you're doing and what you have to sell to them, it's just not going to work. So I think we're ready to start our last sprint here. I'll stay on after I finish this last sprint and answer any questions about marketing on social media. I'll make it a little bit more pointed and maybe even turn it more of into a more traditional live stream. We'll see. So we're going to start the next sprint, and I will absolutely interrupt it if we have pressing marketing questions that pop up. I need to change that up. All right, we're about 4 minutes into, or about 5 minutes left in our sprint here. If you got any marketing questions or anything, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Um, and then we'll be done with the work part of it, and we can kind of focus on the live stream part of it, which is me answering marketing questions and just riffing on all things about business. Or just say what's up. Shoot me a text, or drop a like or a comment, and just say hey. Because I knocked out most of the tasks that I have. So I got my work done during this time. It's been beneficial, and hopefully, it's been beneficial to people that pop in or even catch this after the fact. Just having somebody sit next to you, working next to you, can be a benefit. To get some of those tasks done that you're having a hard time initiating or seeing through to completion. So that's what the purpose of this is. And I want to be able to do this. I'm gonna do this every Friday that I'm able to, if I'm not traveling or anything. Pop on with the live stream, mid morning, to give you guys an opportunity to kind of schedule difficult tasks around it, so that you do have the experience of somebody working next to you to get things done, and answering marketing questions as we go along. My big thing is I'm compelled to teach people, and I'm realizing that's kind of my motivating force. That's the thing that gets me out of bed, is teaching people what I know, from bootstrapping two businesses, and working with clients of all industries, from small businesses, helping them get their marketing in line. And so that's what I do. But we're going to finish up with the task part of it. So if you got a difficult task, I'm here. You can clock in, and use this time to knock out whatever tasks you have that you need to knock out. If you got any questions or anything, drop them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them. Um, you know, Specifically, if you got a question about marketing your business, if you got a question about running a business with ADHD, if you got a business question about starting up a business, um, or launching a personal brand, or marketing on social media, I can answer all those. Um, just drop it in the chat, and I can try to answer it to the best of my ability. One of the things I learned is, if I don't know, if I don't know, I won't just make up something. I will tell you I don't know. Got about 1 minute left on this sprint. All right, good job. If you're with me, knocking out your task, you're finishing strong. Let's stay on it. And hopefully, can give you a little bit of peace this weekend. You can get it done now and not have to worry about it on Monday. Okay. that's the end of our work sprint. If you want me to stay on and continue on the body doubling, if you're just joining us, go ahead and drop it in the chat and let me know that's what you want to do. If you still got tasks that you're trying to knock out, I'm shifting gears a little bit. I'm gonna spend, ooh, my computer sending me messages. I'm gonna spend the remainder of this time just kind of answering marketing questions as they come up, answering things in the comments, or just kind of talking about what I got coming up next week in terms of managing these businesses and handling the marketing for it. So that's what I got. If you got any questions, drop them in the chat. Please drop it in the chat. I'm begging you. So I'm just not yelling I'm not just talking into the void. So if you're body doubling or right now, let me know so that I know just don't start talking and ruin the experience for you of having quiet. Give me a like and let me know that that's what we're doing. If that's what you're doing, if you're trying to get work done while on the live stream. If not, then I can shift it to my more traditional live stream about marketing for Friday afternoon. But let me know. Give me a like or something and let me know that's what you're trying to do so that I am not stepping all over your task management and precluding you from getting your stuff done. All right. Like I said, let me know if you guys are still doing it. If not, then I will go into my regular live stream and maybe give you a little bit of information for your business or your small business or personal brand or whatever you're trying to get off the ground. So I'm gonna get into it. And if you're body doubling, I apologize, but let me know. Drop it in the chat, give me a like, whatever, and let me know. Okay. So from a general standpoint, like the most common questions that I kind of receive as a marketing coach and consultant from small business owners specifically is the most basic general one is where do I even start with marketing? Because it can be overwhelming. Like you already have all the tasks regarding your business that you got to get done. You got to stay on top of your accounting. You got to make sure accounts receivable and accounts payable are going right. Making sure that your inbound system is working so that when people buy your product, they have a good experience. Like there's a whole lot of other aspects of it. And here's the reframe that I want to put on you. The reframe I want to throw at you guys is this: all of that stuff is related to your marketing because marketing is your entire business. Um, you are in the business of marketing whatever product or service you sell or whatever population, whatever services your nonprofit provides to a specific population. That's what you're in the business of doing. So if you're selling pins, you're not in the business of selling pins. You are in the business of marketing pens to people that need writing implements. That's what your business is. And once you do that soft reframe, it allows you to kind of see angles that you didn't normally see before. Because a lot of times people treat marketing as this separate entity, and really, marketing is the art of finding the people that are going to buy your stuff. It's simple as that. It's the art of finding people that are going to buy your stuff. We try to overcomplicate it. We try to add all these other nuances to it. A lot of gurus will put a lot of woo woo on top of it, but really, marketing is the art of finding the people that are going to buy your product or services. Or if you're in the nonprofit sector, it's the art of finding the people who your nonprofit serves. It's going to be finding the people that you want to serve. So that's really what marketing is. And I think a lot of times we end up overcomplicating it and making it this mysterious beast. And it's really not. It's really made for, it's really a lot simpler than that. So, um, how do I get started? Where do I even start with marketing? So, what are you doing now? Let's look at what your capabilities are right now as a business owner. If you have a Facebook page, I would start there. um, and the questions I would ask at the onset is, um, what do I know how to do? What media am I comfortable using? Am I just comfortable writing posts? That's fine. Am I comfortable on camera? That's fine. Am I comfortable talking, but I don't necessarily want to be on camera? That's fine too. There are all kinds of different avenues for you to approach with that piece of it. Um, but it's figuring out where you are. So if you currently have your business on Facebook, let's just start there. Okay. You need to determine what kind of posts you're going to post, because it can't just all be buy my product, buy my service posts. It's not how you maintain an audience. It's not how you get people coming back to your Facebook page. And so there are kind of, the sales pitches kind of things, but then there's also, here's how I do what I do. I will sit down and watch all kinds of woodworking videos. I watch This Old House and watch people build houses. I will watch a lot of different things that I'm not necessarily doing myself just because I find it interesting. If you're in a business, product, or service, a lot of the things that you do that you think are boring are fascinating to other people. A lot of the knowledge that you have about your industry is fascinating to other people. You absolutely can create content that tells and educates people about what you do and what your industry does and what things look like behind the scenes for you to deliver the product or service. And those videos are valuable to people, and that will keep people tuning in. They will derive value from that. So, um, you know, I always use this example, especially when I'm at networking meetings and stuff. But there's a YouTube channel, and it's run by a realtor in Dallas. And what he does is he just shows people around the different neighborhoods in Dallas and shows what's happening in Dallas and where to go in Dallas. Um, and he's just educating people about the city. And the idea is he's going to be your first point of contact if you ever look at moving to Dallas to buy a home or whatever. He would be your first point of contact. But people watch it because it's kind of like it fits into the travel show kind of thing. And people watch it because of that. But also there are clients that watch it because they get a chance to build a rapport and a trust with him without him having to ever interact with them directly. And that's what he uses a social media platform for. That's a YouTube channel. Facebook's actually building in a lot of video capabilities, and they're really trying to incentivize video on the platform. Now they are chasing the dragon of TikTok, which is short form content, and that's where a lot of their incentives lie, is with reels and stories, and that's what they're trying to drive people towards making. But um, I'm saying all that to say this. There's an abundant way to make content. It's just figuring out what content you want to create for your business and pick something that's easy or something that excites you. Like even if there's a little, yeah, there's a learning curve. Hey, thanks for tuning in. um, there's still a there's gonna be, even if it's something there's a learning curve, but it intrigues you. I didn't know a heck of a whole lot about video when I started 8 years ago. Boom. See? Yeah, passion helps people engage. It humanizes the brand. It makes it feel like there's a real person there. Because like people buy from other people. People interact with other people. They follow other people. They don't follow businesses. They may follow they may follow a business because they saw a person that they related to. Well, thank you. Yep. And so when we look at business or brand and stuff like that, I think we spend too much time on the inhuman side of it and not focusing on the person side of it because people connect with your spirit and connect with who you are. And a lot of times, especially with smaller businesses or smaller brands, we forget that. Pepsi markets, they have the cachet, Coke, Pepsi, all these big brands, they have the cachet to just be able to market solely on name recognition. And that's enough. But they still use people in their commercials, right? Like, and I'll go back and jump back with that Ocean Spray commercial with Dogface a couple years ago. It wasn't even really a commercial. It was just a dude out on a skateboard riding around drinking Ocean Spray. People liked the visual. They connected with the dude on there. He was a vibe, and people connected with the vibe of what he was doing. And it wasn't a sale or a pitch or anything to any product or service. It was just he's out there vibing, drinking his Ocean Spray on his board. Yep. Yeah, it was a vibe. And a lot of times I think people get caught up in trying to manufacture that vibe as opposed to just presenting themselves and being themselves. And corporations, some of these corporations have figured it out. That's what the short form content has allowed them to do. And so they're able to find personalities and show them enjoying the product. And then that's the way that's the marketing for them. They don't have to ask people to buy the product. People are trying to buy the vibe that product brings to them. The concept of you don't buy the drill, you buy the hole in the wall that the drill creates is what it is. And the unfortunate side of it is, especially in my industry, like doing the marketing thing, a lot of the big box marketing agencies, when small businesses step to them, they try to get them to market like the big, huge, the biggest companies in the city or whatnot. And whatever city you're in or wherever you're located, they try to get the small businesses to market like the big companies. And what happens is there is a disconnect. I worked with a client years and years ago, and she had been working with one of the big marketing agencies where we're at. And when you went to her website, the thing I was struck with was there was nothing of her on that site. There was nothing of her personally where you felt like there was a human being behind it. And the reason why her clients came and the reason why she still got clients was because of who she was. She had all the connections. People loved her, and they loved the stuff that she was making. And they connected with her on that level. But since since the website was so sterile, the website traffic wasn't where it needed to be, and it was creating a disconnect with the marketing. Right. Just absent of her personality, and that kills the vibe for sure. The thing she was doing was the word of mouth was keeping it strong, but my thing was, hey, you need to put more of your own personality on the website and show what you do here. And I don't want to go into all of her personal business, but um, it was baked goods, and it's like you need to put a little bit more of what you do and show the process and the love that goes into what you're creating and the happiness that brings for people. Um, And, the pushback, a lot of it was, well, um, it was about, they're worried about how professional it looks or whatnot. And the biggest thing is people aren't coming to you because of the buttoned up professionalism. They're coming because they like the stuff you bake. I tried. I think some of it did connect, some of it did resonate. One of the big things is, and I realized this, especially as a smaller agency, one of the things I realized is when people spend a lot of money on, a marketing agency or whatnot, they will optimize the results because they spent a lot of money on it. And it's a really hard thing to say, I spent a lot of money and got kind of misled, or they didn't give me, what I was asking for. We end up optimizing when we make big purchases. And um, when we make small purchases, we can nitpick and kind of pick it apart and say, this wasn't necessarily worth it. But when it comes to big purchases, we end up, the human brain kind of says, we kind of find a way to make it okay. And so there was a little bit of that going on, but we did do some vignettes and stuff, telling a personal story or whatnot and posting it online. And I think uh, those are still somewhere out there. She's not doing it anymore, but still think those are still live somewhere online, telling her personal story. Well, thank you. I'm trying. I'm trying to build my audience here, and get people locked in here, because I think a lot of small business owners aren't necessarily served by a lot of the stuff that the big brands are doing. But then also there is some unattainable stuff, especially like on, like when some of the unattainable stuff like a lot of the gurus do on YouTube. Some of that stuff isn't attainable for your average person. Without an investment of money, without hiring extra people and stuff. And so I'm trying to give ground level stuff to get people started and get the ball rolling, and then they can kind of scale up from there. But yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Um, and I'm gonna continue, like I said, I'm gonna keep on with doing what I'm doing. I'm normally on here Mondays with a more traditional live stream. This is kind of a body doubling live stream. It started out as an opportunity for people to work next to one another and get tasks done, because I'm a marketing coach, but I also have ADHD. And so I'm trying to help business owners and professionals and whoever else with ADHD manage their lives, and get the tasks done and get the stuff done. So, um, yeah. The next thing is, how to identify my ideal customer. That's one of the challenges I see business owners, because what they'll do is they'll come up with a great idea. And ideas are great, they're sexy, they're amazing. But every idea is a bad idea until you test out what the idea is. And then you kind of see what the results are. And then you could determine on whether that's a good or a bad idea. Right. And a lot of times people come up with these amazing products. They get into that Shark Tank kind of stuff where they come up with these amazing products in their minds, right? In their mind's eye, but they don't necessarily have a who in mind for the product or brand or whoever. They don't really know who they're supposed to connect with. And you end up adrift. And so when I say ideal clients, who's your ideal customer? Who's your ideal audience? Who do you want to show up? This is a personal thing. It is an intensely personal thing. Who do I love to serve? And it doesn't feel like a job. Who am I thrilled? Who do I get excited about working for? Who do I get excited about serving? Who do I get excited about interacting with? And you're using part of your personality because they align with who you are as a human being, right? They align with who you are as a person, and you are basically using them as the template for your ideal customer. This is helpful. Oh, good. Shoot, then stay tuned. Because a lot of this stuff does cross over. Because at the end of the day, it's all kind of serving an audience and serving a product. Sometimes it's physical products. Sometimes it's the likes and whims of an audience and the interests of an audience. And the interesting thing is, TikTok is an interest-based algorithm, so it goes based on bet. Hey, that's what's up. That's what this is. And so that's what I'm trying to provide on here. Um, and if it's helpful for the TikTok and growing your audience, then we can grow together because I'm definitely trying to grow this channel. Um, but yeah, when you lock in on the who, and a lot of times you use your own personality to determine who, who would you like to hang out with? Who do you enjoy serving? I have clients that I would, if it made financial sense, I would serve them for free because they're such great people. I would absolutely work with them for free. And that's kind of what I built my business around because I've gotten burned every single time I've chased a client who wasn't necessarily a fit. It's always blown up in my face. And I've kind of learned through the error side of things that it doesn't benefit me to chase people that aren't aligned with who I am as a person. And as a business owner, you can absolutely do that. The example I give is I have friends that are kind of in the physical training business. On the flip side, don't engage in negative responses. It attracts negative people. That is 100% true. Um, I do think if you clearly have an idea of who you are, who you want to serve, um, you'll end up repelling the people that aren't for you. And that's another part of marketing that's important because a lot of times when you try to serve people who aren't for you, what happens is you put yourself in this spiral where your content's never going to satisfy them, the product's never going to satisfy them. There's always going to be something wrong. And um, it's going to feel at some point you get enough of those, it's going to feel like a rejection of you. It's going to feel like a rejection of who you are as a person. And that can grate you down. That can absolutely break you down. And so you really want to define who you are and who you're serving and who you aren't serving. And the idea I have is if I can't serve you, I don't have any problem saying I may not be the person for you, but this person may be great for you. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather pass you off so that you can get your needs met instead of taking your money. Because if I take your money, you're not happy. What happens is I take your money, you're not happy with what happens, right? Um, Now you have a negative experience and I'm the cause of your negative experience. I'd rather let you go and say, hey, this person might align better with what you're looking for. Boom. Now they are getting what they need, and I'm getting what I need. What I need is to not have to work with somebody who's not aligned with what my values are. And I don't have to kind of change what I normally do in the scope of my work to adjust for somebody who isn't necessarily a right fit for what I want to do. Cutting those unwanted fish. Yeah, that's right. You don't want they're taking up space on the boat. You only have a limited number of space. You only have a limited bandwidth that you can help people with. And that's what the challenge is. And so and I am real I had did a live stream shoot was about 2 weeks ago talking about some of the science behind willpower and ego depletion and stuff like that, and the idea that willpower is a real thing. It's a physical thing. um, and you could absolutely burn through it by engaging with people that don't align with what you want and doing things that don't align with what your real mission is in life. And you could end up draining your willpower on things that don't align with you, and then you don't have it in reserves for things that actually do matter. Specifically when it comes to creating content or things that actually do require a lot of your attention and your energy, but it's something that you like doing, you could still burn through your reserves. And what happens is when you were so locked into and I call them high leverage and low leverage tasks. The low leverage tasks are the busy work of life, the things that need to get done, but they don't necessarily move a needle and they don't improve they don't improve your day or week or month. Then there are the high leverage things, which absolutely require a lot more energy and will burn through your willpower a lot faster. But by the time you're done, it's actually accomplished something and it's actually moved you forward. So for me, some days the high leverage activity is logging on, getting on this mic, turning on the camera, turning on the light, and talking to the audience. That's a high leverage task. I will burn through my reserves of willpower but it's something that has absolutely yielded me fantastic results in real life. And so I will expend my energy on that first and do the hard thing first, and then go off and do the low leverage things. And the science behind it is, and it's been, there's been back and forth on it, because you know how science works, but there's been back and forth on it. But willpower can be tied to glucose. And so a lot of times when we're in the hustle culture mode, we kind of get locked into skipping meals and things along those lines. And that is something that will absolutely drain your willpower, because it's tied. They found there's a correlation. Correlation doesn't always mean causation on the beauty community, but the burnout was real. I took a huge break, came back and started doing content I wanted. Hey, but I'm much happier. That's what's up. And that's how you lock in. I'm gonna put this back on because I think y'all need to see this. I read fast. I built my TikTok community to 158,000, reporting on beauty, comment, tea, but the burnout was real. Took a long break, came back and started the content I wanted. And now I'm at 116K, but I'm much happier. And that's going to improve the quality of the stuff that you're doing, because now you can be present and you can give more of your energy to it. The thing I was saying with willpower is they can tie it to the physical, like how much blood glucose you have in your system at the time, and that could be related to your willpower. And so a lot of times we get in the hustle culture thing of, I'm going to skip this meal, I'm not going to eat, I'm gonna just get started, and you could be robbing yourself of potential willpower moving forward because you don't have the glucose in your blood that can fuel you past the hard times and hard to get through times. And especially, like, one of the things is there are energy parasites out there, and they live in the comments section a lot of times. And there are people out there where they are unhappy. Ooh, I gained 50. Yeah. Gained 50 pounds during that hustle, skip meals, skip the gym. Yeah. And that is one of the challenges, when you start neglecting your mission and your purpose in life. It absolutely can impact your physical health too. And like I said, there are energy vampires in the comments. They aren't happy with who they are. And instead of looking internally and saying, okay, what do I need to do to fix the situation? They come to these comment sections and see people out here doing the thing that they've always dreamed of. And they decide, I'm going to take this opportunity to try to ruin their day a little bit. And it doesn't necessarily make them happy. It doesn't necessarily fulfill them. They just get to they're doing their best to spread the misery to other people. So I've kind of conditioned myself to say, hey, thanks for the feedback. Thanks for this. Thanks for that. And the third. And then I move on. Sometimes you do get caught up in it. Yeah, right. Wish I had this back then. I do a podcast with a friend of mine, who's really a self-made guy. He was homeless, and he's kind of built a fantastic life for himself, and it's called Trial and Error. And we normally live stream Tuesdays at 10:30 in the morning Central Time. Um, and we talk about this kind of stuff, where sometimes the lesson is in going out and doing it the wrong way. You learn really vital lessons, but it can suck. Um, I had a job like that where, no matter what I did, um, you were never caught up, and the clients hated you and the bosses hated you. Trial and Error, 10:30. Bet we'll look forward to seeing you there. Um, I had a job where no matter what we did, um, there was never an end to it. And it was in human services. And human service is one of those things where, when I was managing like social workers, I would tell them, and I was managing family support workers and people that go in and help families and stuff, I would manage them. And I say, once you get burned out in this job, you need to go find something else to do, because um, the decisions that you make regarding this job and the reporting that you do and the interactions that you have with these families last forever. It may be 8 hours for you, but the decisions you make in this position can affect somebody for the rest of their lives. And so when you hit that burnout and you can't invest empathy, you know, into it, you need to move on. And I had it on my board. Um, yeah, when my staff walked in my office, I had it on my board. Knowledge, was it knowledge plus understanding equals empathy, or no, knowledge plus empathy equals understanding. And part of the way I broke it down was, I would say, yeah, that's my old world. I used to, worked with kids that were in crisis, taught people how to deal with kids that were in crisis, worked with families that were in crisis, did, sitting down and I had a case where I had to monitor. I sat in the house and monitored the kids. And I just happened to be on my regular work day. I came in and the kid's mom was on a psychiatric hold for self-harm. And I just sat with them until we can get their grandparents involved. And so that was my life up until then. Another good one is honesty without compassion equals cruelty. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the thing that's missing in social media interactions a lot of times. Um, Honesty without, because people think, oh, I'm telling you the brutal truth, I'm telling you the blunt truth or whatnot. And a lot of times we already know what the actual real truth of an issue is. We know what the facts of an issue are. Um, but we also need somebody to deliver it in a way that doesn't minimize who we are as people and reduce us down to I think a lot of times people do really get caught up in that. I'm just being true. It's the honest, brutal truth. Well, sometimes we know what the truth is, but we need somebody who actually understands it so that we can add some perspective to what the truth is, so that we can find a solution. And that's the real. Um, I think people mistake not having tact for being honest. And that's not what that is. Because the truth is beneficial. The truth also needs to be able to help people. And if you can't deliver a truth in a way that somebody's going to receive it without hurting their feelings or without destroying them, who they are as a person, sometimes you need to go back and figure out how you're communicating things to other people. Because sometimes it's not on the receiver. It's on the person it's the person that's speaking. And sometimes there are uncountable hard truths that people need to run into, but sometimes it's our job to make sure that we're not delivering those harshly, because it's harsh enough. I used to tell parents all the time, I said, there's nothing wrong with tough love, but it needs to be done with care and compassion. Your kids need to know the difference between you and a stranger. They need to know the difference between you and a stranger that's going to take advantage of them. And if you're the person that they have the most enduring connection with, and you take advantage of them, how are they going to be able to tell the difference? That's going to affect them as they grow older in their interpersonal lives. When they have kids of their own, they're not going to know how to couch those tough lessons with love. So sometimes you deliver the tough love with the soft love, and make sure that there's a lesson that's being delivered, and make sure that lesson is delivered as comfortably as possible. Me and truths go over people's heads anyway. People defend when they feel attacked. Right. And one of the things I did find is sometimes people will, our words are kind of a mirror to how we really feel. And so sometimes people will react feeling attacked because there's something inside them that is not in alignment personally. And it has nothing to do with what's being said. And so you never know what rabbit hole you could be going down when you start this. Like I had staff with me that, some of my staff, and I helped them along the way. They were on their way to, being licensed mental health practitioners. And they had all the learning and skills and stuff, and some of them actually had their licensing, but since they weren't in that role, I warned them, like, don't therapize this family unless you're in the role of being their therapist, because you can be crossing over into some very dangerous territory. You never know what somebody has underneath, and you're not in the relationship of a therapist. You're Even though that you have all the credentials, you're not in that position. It's a complicated conversation, but yeah, mean truths just go over people's heads. People ignore stuff that they don't like, and sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes people need to understand what the truth is, but if you really are engaged with giving them the truth, then sometimes you have to find a way to deliver it to them so that you're not setting off the other defenses. And then other times we can deliver the truth all we want, but sometimes people learn through experience. And so they learn in their own way. So you can tell them a million times, but it's not going to be crystallized to them until they go out and experience the thing on their own. So, ooh, my ADHD got a hold of me. And it does fall under ideal customer, because finding your ideal customer requires having knowledge of who you are and who you want to serve, and being steadfast on that. Do I really need a website or social media enough? So I'm gonna skip that one because I've talked about, do I really need a website or social media enough? Is there mega thing? So, and like I said, a lot of times, here's the thing: we're human beings are complex and messy, and we are rife with contradictions. And we're aware of it on some level. We're aware that we're all full of shit on some level, in some degree, and we all have contradictory thoughts in some degree. I do think a lot of times, um, people that don't have any real personal convictions, it's a lot easier for them to trip the trigger of people who actually do have real convictions and real things that they believe. When you don't really have a personal philosophy or a guiding star, or a personal purpose, it's easy for you to, sometimes people are just more interactive with winning the interaction. That defines a lot. It defines a lot of what I've seen on social media, where somebody's just trying to win the interaction, um, and truth ends up becoming a relative thing. You know, truth becomes volume and how much louder you can yell. When I used to have to do, work with courts, and I actually had a county attorney tell us this during the training. They're not interested in what's true; they're interested in what they can get people to believe. That's a tough one. And so, a lot of times the truth is a relative thing depending on what frame of reference, what context you're dealing with. And the unfortunate side of it is, specifically when you're dealing with somebody that does not have what I call a moral anchor, they could really get people wound up because they don't have any guiding star. They just do and say whatever pops in their mind, whatever's going to win that interaction for them, and they don't really lock in on anything. And for people that do have a moral anchor, it's hard because you're like, "Ugh, why don't you understand?" Well, they do understand, but what they understand is they don't really have a guiding principle, and you do. And as long as they can keep hitting you and you're stuck on that guiding principle, then they can kind of dance circles around you. So at some time, it makes sense just to disengage and move on. And it's a hard thing because you feel like you're ceding the argument, feel like you're losing the argument. But at the end of the day, it's about saving your mental energy. It's a sad life. But, it is what it is. I found that, when I and I found that, you know, for them, they eventually realize how sad that is. Especially and once they make the connection, like then it hits them. But sometimes they never do, and they just kind of live their life like that. And so you have to determine how much you want to be engaged with people like that. I don't. I don't have time for it. My threshold for that is really, really low. And so I don't necessarily engage with people are that are like that, where they don't really have specific morals, where they just try to constantly win an interaction with somebody. Yeah, to be a that negative, yeah, it is. And I don't understand how they function, but on some level, there's something in them intrinsically that's broken, where that actually brings them happiness, which is kind of a weird thing. But the other side to it is, if your happiness is only if you can only make yourself happy by making other people unhappy, then there's something wrong with you, right? You know, I don't know if it's a Toni Morrison quote, or I think it's Toni Morrison who said, um, "If you can only be big, if you only can be large when everybody else is on their knees, then you have a serious problem. If the only time you can feel large is when everybody else is on their knees, you have a serious problem." And I think that kind of encapsulates what how those people maneuver through the world. And in this field, you find a lot of it in the sales side of things, because the sales side of the marketing thing is, that's where you have your killers, that's where you have your sharks, where they're willing to go out and do whatever they need to do to make the sale. Now, you do have salesmen that do have salespeople that do have a moral anchor where they honestly believe that what they're selling is going to change the life of whoever they're selling it to. And those people are normally the people that drift towards the top of sales, because they earnestly believe this thing will transform or improve somebody's life. Yeah, they don't have much to offer in the conversation, because if you don't have a strong moral anchor, you don't have anything that you care passionately about. Like, or if the only thing you passionately care about is screwing with other people, then that just means that you're kind of a shell, kind of have a shell of a life. Um, that's why I don't do a lot. Like, I'm not heavy on Twitter like that. Like, because it's just become this. It used to be, now I'll be honest, it used to be the YouTube comments, like, or the social media comments, any video site, where it was like the perfect center of negativity in the universe. Like, the most miserable people just live down there, ready to insult and belittle anybody that popped up on the screen. But now it's Twitter. And it's become the perfect center of negativity in the universe. And I think it scares a lot of people off who could actually have fabulous careers, because they have a point, and they have a good vantage point, and they have a good perspective, and they connect with people. But it's that fear of running into that group of people. Um, I used to write a comic books blog way back in the day, and I was talking about, you know, just pondering, like, oh, I wonder what the black community in the Marvel universe is like, and how do black superheroes interact with one another and stuff, outside of the context of the writers that are writing them. I just was kind of like this world building kind of thing, and I got so many death threats, racist, negative death threats, that I ended up stopping writing for a long time behind that. Um, it was crazy. It was absolutely, yeah. It was absolutely crazy. And um it was people, like, a lot of it was just trolls, because they saw specific usages of words and decided, I'm gonna jump in and wipe my feet all over this. And then the weird death threats and stuff started coming. It was crazy. And over Marvel, yeah. But I also knew I was running into there was a specific community, a specific segment of nerds whose job it is to make every other nerd group feel terrible. And that's who I didn't know that they existed like that in those numbers. And it was a very specific subpopulation, because I'm a black nerd. I'm an old school black nerd. I love it. But it was a specific population of nerds who exists just to make everybody else miserable in life. Yeah, the game, whoo. um, I'll hop on, I'll get on the sticks and play Overwatch. That's kind of my thing. And I was like, I am not getting into the comms, because the comms are absolutely insane. People exist just to ruin your day in those places. And it's empty life. And I think a lot of it has to do with not having anything fulfilling in the world besides that. But yeah, it was crazy. And it's a sub pocket of nerds. And I think one of the interesting things about nerd nerddom, now I'm kind of getting off subject, but yeah, I got related media regarding that too. I got related channels on just nerd stuff. But one of the things about the nerd community is we're going from being outcast to the mainstream. And in that crossover, some people have never forgiven the world for shunning them in the first place. And so they have these hypothetical grudges against people that they see online. And yeah, I'm a nerd going to listen. They get these hypothetical grudges and these hypothetical axes to grind. And by God, they're going to make people pay for the thing that they probably should have been in therapy for. And I'm gonna make these strangers that are completely unrelated to any of my emotional trauma, I'm gonna make them the center point of um, me lashing out instead of addressing the actual trauma that's internal. It's a sad thing. And at the time when I was writing that blog, um, yeah, as I was writing it, I was just finding out about it because I was a journalism major, and then I started finding out how deep the rabbit hole went with Comics Gate and Gamergate, and the early ties between all the MAGA stuff. And I went down that rabbit hole, and I started pursuing that with it, kind of the journalistic eye. And I'm like, do I write about this? Mm-mm. Not right now. I don't want to deal with that. But it was a very specific group of people, and it's almost like all the internet trolls got together. I love this channel. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna when I get done, I'm gonna hop off and give you a follow too. Um, but it was in it's almost like all the trolls are like, how do we maximize our leverage and really embrace trolldom and ruin as many people's lives as possible? And they all got together and decided, well, we're going to make a movement and we're going to ruin as many people's lives as possible. And then because if we really get into brass tacks, if we get into brass tacks, a lot of the political stuff that we've seen since in the last 9 to 10 years, a lot of the central players in that had some connections with Gamergate and all that other stuff. Like some of the big players now and some of the main personalities had some roles in that stuff. Um, and it's all the internet trolls decided that they're going to take over the world, and they functionally have. They essentially have. We're being ruled by trolls. And so we have to decide how we protect our own peace, and try to navigate out of this hyper online world that's being ruled and governed by trolls. Nerds and gamers were the OGs incels. Yeah. And I struggle with it because I'm a little bit older. And so for me, the incel thing, like I had to learn how to talk to women, talk to girls as a kid, like as a full-blown nerd. Like, and I had to learn how to do it. I had to learn how to have communication skills and stuff like that. And unfortunately, a lot of uh, these younger dudes just don't have the communication skills. And as a result of not developing those social communication skills, they don't know how to interact, and they lash out. And it's not making excuses for them, because I don't feel like there's an excuse to treat somebody like garbage. Um, but at the same time, they lack specific social skills. Yeah, they are deep. It's scary how deep they are in that community. And they just want to ruin, like they just exist to ruin people's lives. And it's like when you like, you are a sad, empty man. You're a sad, empty vessel of a human being. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you've never learned how to talk to people outside of being online. Well, and see, I learned how to do it because I was born, like I'm in that, was it how they say it, exennial age bracket where I was around pre-internet, but I also grew up with it. And so had to learn how to communicate with people offline. And I think a lot of people are so hyper online with all their communication that they don't understand nuances, and they don't understand to have real conversations with people. And it impacts their personal lives. Um, it's terrifying. Um, and oh, thank you. And I'm trying. It's one of those things where uh, ADHD kid. I was younger than all my classmates, um, and I had to learn how to adjust in a world that wasn't necessarily friendly to nerds in the '90s. Like it was like you were kind of a pariah, you know, you know. And I found my group of people. I found my group. We were hip hop nerds, we were anime nerds, we were comic book nerds. To be honest with you, when I was growing up, I used to sit down and talk. We used to talk comic books with gang members, like the cats that was in gangs and stuff. They were still nerds too, and so we did have pockets of nerdom, but it just wasn't identified like that. And so, um, I found my group of people that supported me, and we all rhymed, we all were into hip hop, but then we also, we had hit up the video store on the weekends and try to snag all the anime that we could watch, and sit around and watch that stuff and listen to music and stuff like that, and talk comic books, and we all go out to sci-fi movies and everything. It was not friendly at all being popular was the mainstream goal. And see, that was the thing. Like these were actual subgroups. And it was crazy because when I got to college, none of that stuff mattered anymore. Like all those like the preppy popular kids, they were just as adrift as everybody else was. But it wasn't friendly at all to be a nerd in the 90s. It's kind of crazy to be a nerd back then. And so um you had to learn how to adapt. And I learned by not suppressing my nerdish tendencies. I found people that I identified with. And it wasn't because a lot of people find their group and then they instantly focus on, okay, so now we're going to hate on the out group. And that's not what we did. We wanted to find other people that like the same things we liked. That's a different vantage point. I didn't feel like I had to, now that I had the nerd, now that I have my crew, now we're all against the jocks. Some of us were jocks. Some of us hoop, some of us play football. We still were nerds, but we still did all this other stuff. And so we had a lot of crossover. But the people that were just identified as this specific archetype of jock or preppy or the mean girl group or the rich kid group, the ones that narrowly identified at that, I found that they were the ones that were most miserable. And when I talked to them as adults, they always wanted to be involved with the more nerdy interests. They just didn't feel like they had a means to. Like I said, man, I used to like we would be sitting there talking about, like, even if we look at, now I'm way off on subject, but here it is. If you listen to 90s hip hop and listen to the hardcore rappers back then, there were nothing but comic book and sci-fi movie references all through the rhymes. They were nerds too. Right. They were nerds too. Like, uh, you know, and so it's just become a lot more mainstream. And as a way of becoming mainstream, I think for some people now they feel like it's a chance to marginalize people now that nerd has become mainstream. So their normal targets are going to be, uh, you know, they're going to be uh, black and brown people. It's going to be women. It's going to be uh, LGBTQIA folks. It's going to be those people that they can marginalize and push into a little box and pick on them. And so instead of making it inclusive, they try to exclude people. I was at Whole Foods um, years and years ago, and I had found this really dope, like Secret Wars, like Marvel Secret Wars is like the cover of the first Marvel Secret Wars from the 80s, and it was on a shirt. And I'm wearing the shirt, and I walk into Whole Foods, and a dude walks up, and he's a nerd, a white nerd, and he's gonna grill me on the origin of my shirt. And if I knew who everybody was on the shirt, and I'm like, not only do I know who everybody is, I have all these at the house. I have all these books at the house. Like my nerd cred is real. But in his mind, since he saw somebody who didn't look like him who had the same interest, I had to be the poser. It's a weird thing. Put your neck on the Mr. Spot. Like, yep. It was intergalactic. Yep. Older men do that when I wear my band shirt. They never got over on me. Right. It is one of those things where they feel like they have to try to gatekeep that side of it. And on one end, they're like, "Oh, I just don't want people in here that are trying to gain access to the community just so that they can dunk on or whatever." But the reflex is they're not looking at the guy that looks like them that's pretending to be a nerd that's just wearing it for the aesthetic. They're seeing you wear the band shirt and assume that you don't know anything about the band, and that's crazy to me. I don't understand that. Um, but it's about finding your own tribe, and I think a lot of times, especially in this online content space, what did I hear the other day? A lot of times when we get onto this online space, it ends up becoming this weird competition where we're comparing our day-to-day outcomes and our mistakes and outtakes with other people's highlights. And it's really a true thing on social media. And I think that's why you find so many people being disingenuous on this platform. Oh no, people that don't look like me, they must not know what I know. And that's a nerd thing. Is a very strong nerd thing. You see it some in sports too, like with sports teams, but you really do see it with nerds. And I do think it comes from being the formerly marginalized, or the not marginalized, but formerly the insular group that was kind of on the outskirts to become the mainstream, where now nerd stuff is everywhere. And now we're even getting the backlash against nerd stuff because now everybody hates comic book movies and all that other stuff. We're seeing the backlash against it. And all it means is this stuff has become more mainstream. And unfortunately, I feel like, especially within the gamer realm, it's really insidious. I can see how brutal it can be and how mean gamers are to people that are on the outskirts, or if somebody's trying to create a space for themselves and people like them in that community, they can't wait to come and ruin it for you. Even though they've created a space for themselves within the gamer community for themselves, they don't want you to have it. And that's wild to me. The comic book movie started. Yeah, I think what happened was, invariably, whenever you have art, there's going to be a formula. When something becomes popular, there's a formula that makes it successful and replicable. And um, I don't know if it's a saturation point, and I don't think it's a lack of stories, because when I look at it, and this is the big nerd rabbit hole, but follow me down this one. If I look at like Batman books, right? And I go back all the way to the Bill Finger days when he started, Batman and all this stuff. That's 80, 90 years of stories, of story ideas. Now, some of them are recycled, some of them are going to be reused storylines, but there is no media form that has endured for that long, consistently writing stories. No media form has endured that long outside of comic books. So there's plenty of material to be made. I do think um, when the corporate side of it said, okay, this is a money printing machine, um, they lost some of what made uh, people rally to the medium, the comic book movie in the first place. Because when I was growing up, it was a comic book movie. There was a good chance this thing was going to fucking suck. Like, there was a good chance this was going to be the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. I paid money to go see Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone in theaters. I paid money to see it. And I knew it was terrible when I saw it, but I still made myself enjoy it. Well, I am too. Black Canary. Like, I am looking forward to new comic book movies. But when I was growing up, like my bar for what's a bad comic book movie is probably a lot higher or lower depending on how you look at it, because I lived through terrible comic book movies. I went to go see them. I was excited. Me and my boys went to go see Spawn in theaters. That's how old I am. I'm dating myself. Yeah. We went to see Spawn in theaters. And it was bad back then, but we enjoyed the hell out of it. We had a great time because we're finally seeing Spawn on the big screen. But it was a terrible movie. It was objectionably bad. We rented Dolph Lundgren's Punisher movie. That movie's so bad it didn't even go to theaters. It went straight to video. We rented that joint. We watched the hell out of it. So my bar for a bad comic book movie, you have to be there. Like you gotta be on that level. If you're not on, if you're a little bit better and competent, because back then comic book movies and video game movies, they weren't even competent. They weren't even competent. Like they weren't even good. Like it wasn't even a cohesive narrative that carried through. The bar for comic book movies, they were bad. um Video game movies were bad. Like when Mortal Kombat, the first Mortal Kombat movie dropped, we were shocked because it was actually like, oh, okay, this is kind of a coherent story, and it looks like somebody actually knows how to work a camera, and it makes sense. And there's no boom mic hanging down here. Like it was a competent movie. And then we went to see Mortal Kombat 2, and it upended everything. Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was awful. I love Punisher so much. Yeah, I'm happy that we have a Punisher now that's like in the Daredevil show. Like, I like this Punisher. I remember when the Punisher movie was one of the worst things that ever came out. But so when I'm comparing like what's a bad Marvel, a bad DC movie compared to that, it's a like it's night and day. Like I didn't necessarily like Batman versus Superman. I was confused. I knew the story. I was confused by how Snyder put it together. There were some baffling scenes in it, but I didn't like it, but that didn't make it as bad as the worst comic book movie I'd ever seen. Zack Snyder was an amazing visual artist. He's an artiste when it comes to a man should never be allowed to write a movie ever again. Ever again. But even his worst output is better than some of the stuff I actually paid my real money for when I was a kid to go watch in theaters. It's just not a comparison. But yeah, I do think that, you know, in the nerd community, I think the next wave is going to be because what's happening is you're getting more and more diverse group of nerds in the space. And at some point, there's going to be a tipping point where um, the nerds that are making everybody miserable are kind of ended up getting walled off in their own corner. And the whole thing and the whole nerd community moves without them. And that's where you're really going to see the big backlash. It's really going to get ugly. Yeah, the writers they listen. The writers of the last few seasons of Game of Thrones probably need to be in jail. Like they need to be they need to be in jail for how they did the last few seasons of Game of Thrones. They need to be arrested. um Game of it was but even, and I think as nerds we can have these kind of conversations and kind of joke about it, but the ones that I get scared of are the ones that take it so seriously where they're actually sending death threats and stuff to the writers, and that's a part of the community. It's a weird thing. Um, what was it? It was a couple years ago. The dude who kind of wrote the first God of War game, like the creator behind it, the mind behind it. He is a terrible person. Like he's mad at the God of War games because it actually humanized Kratos, and he's like, no, he's a bloodlusted killer and blah blah blah. And they destroyed my boy by making him soft. And I have every single God of War game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I love the fact that they actually made the main character a human being and made him relatable. Jail them all. Lock them up, right? Throw away the key, man. What they did to the last season of Game of Thrones, they were just like, okay, we just need to get to the finish line. We just need to we just need to be done with this. And it was almost like a speed run at the end of it. Like, we're just gonna speed run to the end of this. So that we can get out of this contract. And I think what they did was the next show that they had in mind was like, what was it? It was something that was awful, like awful. It was a bad idea. It started out as a bad idea. It never redeemed itself. It was a show it was an alternate universe about what if the South won the Civil War. a thing that nobody asked for. Nobody asked for this. And that's what I think that's kind of what they were trying to speed run through Game of Thrones to make. It was a master class in how to fumble the bag. It was like I said, it just baffling. Like the end of it was just baffling. I'm still a little bit irritated by how that thing ended. Mother of Dragons. No, no, it was what was that show? I gotta Google it because I think it got shelved because people are like, nah. Show about South winning Civil War. Um, it was on HBO. It is HBO show about it, and I think it had something to do with one of the showrunners, Confederate. Yeah, yeah, it was Confederate. That's what it was. And I have a feeling if I remember correctly, it was one of the guys. It was one of the yep. It was some of the guy David Benioff and DB Weiss, and they had developed Game of Thrones, and so they had come up with this show where they're like, what if the South won the Civil War? And maybe that was my first time realizing that somebody was on something like ketamine or something. I don't know what the idea was. I don't know what they were thinking. Uh, but it was bad thinking emotion. It was one of the worst ideas that had ever been ideated. And um, but yeah, and they ruined the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones to start creating that thing. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it was. It's. I don't. I don't. I don't understand how you have an idea that bad, and somebody says, "Hey, man, you you need to call a therapist or something." Like where you have an ideation that's that bad, that's that alarming, where nobody says, "Hey, man, go sit down somewhere. Maybe not do this." Um, where you have to actually go through the entire stage of doing the script writing and coming up with the first treatment of the show and some of the principal photography and some of the character design and stuff. You do all that stuff, storyboarding, the whole nine. You go through the whole process, and that idea lasts that long. You probably need to be evaluated at that point. And they ended up ruining Game of Thrones for that, which should really piss you off because it pisses me off to this day. Ketamine probably funded it. Ketamine Elon probably funded it. Yeah. Apartheid Elroy, he probably threw in a couple of $1 million to make sure that thing got started. But yeah, yeah, because it's 2017, and I think they were getting ready to film it, and the backlash on it was so strong that they decided let's not do this. It blows my mind that nobody stepped up and thought this was a horrible idea. Well, here's the thing, though. So, like I said earlier, every idea is a bad idea until it's tested out. And what happens is people fall in love with ideas and concepts. They fall so in love with they fall so in love with the idea of having an idea that they don't sit down and think, is this a good idea? I hope that makes sense. Like they fall so in love with their own thinking that they don't stop to think, is this good thinking? They just like to have a thought. And some people, even creative people, I know a lot of creative people. There are a lot of creative people that never had an original thought. That wasn't, they never had an original thought. And so when they do have one, they don't weigh it out. they just go, they just go through and they just execute it. And they don't necessarily think, should this thing exist? You know, you know, uh, well, we've made airborne heroin where you could just shoot it in the air. That's a bad idea. Somebody needs to stop them. But I think sometimes people never push back on it. And I think that's how especially when you have money. And when you have money and you are in y- you have money and you are a white dude who is kind of in the mainstream and everybody kind of listens to you, I think it ends up becoming intoxicating where you think all your ideas are just winners. Right. There's a reason why nobody's done it. You know, look, hey, we have an angry monkey over here. Why don't we give him a loaded pistol? That seems like a terrible idea. Well, it'll be awesome to get it on film. That's a bad idea, bro. Why would we do this? You know, I, I, uh, I don't know. I do think, and it was something I was talking to when I was the monkey is Elon. You're right. Um, I was kind of talking to Barbara about this, and I think it does kind of tie into what we're saying. Is um, sometimes people will sit there and say, "I don't like how things are, and so I'm going to upset the apple cart and change things," and they don't necessarily weigh out what upsetting the apple cart is. So here's my example. So if you take your car to a mechanic, right, and they're under your hood, and they're like, "Dang, I put on the diagnostic machine. I can't really figure out what's going on. I need to upset the apple cart." And then they start grabbing a chainsaw and a blowtorch, and you're like, "What are you doing?" I'm gonna get in here. I'm gonna get in here and see what I can break, and see if that gives me a revelation. I need to upset the apple cart. I think a lot of people live life like that, where this thing isn't working. Instead of figuring out ways to make it work, I'm gonna just absolutely destroy it and see if destroying it makes it work somehow. If I could break this irrevocably, then somehow it's going to be better. And so I think a lot of people get that's their kind of we're going to destroy things mindset. And it's so insanely reckless that it's kind of the opposite of what Vonnegut said, where Vonnegut said um, everybody wants to build but nobody wants to do maintenance. Well, maybe it is. I mean, they want to destroy and never build anything. And it's kind of another offshoot of that. They want to tear down systems and tear down things and gut them from the upside, gut them from the, and some of the systems do need to be destroyed, to be quite honest with you. But some people, they want to still live within the same framework of the system, but they want to absolutely gut it and ruin it and destroy it and then limp it along. They think that that's going to get better. I can get off on that. I can get into that political thread all day long. I can go down that rabbit hole all day long. But I do think that when you have enough money and influence, and when you have enough money and influence, you start thinking that the whole world thinks like you do because you don't have anybody in the room because you have money, power, and influence. You don't have anybody in the room saying, "Hey, this is a really bad fucking idea. Please do not do this," because everybody in the room is paid to agree with you. And I think they never hear anything outside of it. And when they do encounter it, they don't necessarily know how to deal with that mentally. Especially when you have a guy like Elon. I mean, like his thing is, he's already kind of a socially awkward dude. He's hypersensitive to rejection. He's really petty. There's probably some other stuff, other traits and stuff going on. I know he's mentioned being autistic. There's other stuff going on up there, and so everybody around him, Kanye too, falls into this camp. Everybody around him is paid to kiss his ass on a daily basis, tell him how great and wonderful and genius his ideas are. And when people push back against them, there's this inclination to lash out and destroy the things that allow them to succeed and thrive. Yeah, boomers in a nutshell. That's terrifying. The boomer thing is terrifying to me because they're like, I'm about to shuffle off of this mortal coil and I'm going to burn the house down. I'm a my last act before my final act before I leave this plane of existence is I'm going to drop I'm gonna blow this house up and burn it down completely. Instead of leaving a house for the kids, they just want to leave ashes and cinders for the kids. And it's not the world that they were handed. It's not the world that they were given, and it's unfair. This is kind of why I was driven to do some of this stuff because there are a lot of gatekeepers, specifically when it comes to media marketing and business and social media and stuff. There's a lot of gatekeepers, and they want to keep a lot of the information for themselves. For me, I tell people really straight up, I'm going to share everything. I'm not going to hold anything back about what I know. And if you want to interact with me, you want to work with me, that's fine. We can absolutely sit down and work with me. But when I'm on these streams, I'm going to share everything I know. I'm not going to hold things back. And I think there's a real gatekeeper mentality for people where they feel like they have to control who has access to specific information or knowledge and stuff like that. He tried to be cool with the gamer and gets beat by tutorial boss and rage quits. Well, I saw the thing on Twitter where it looked like he was almost in tears because he logged on and the trolls are kind of turned on him. And they're telling him how much of a loser he was to his face. And he did not like that. And I cannot imagine okay, so I can't imagine my life being, they pulled the ladder up behind him, right? I can't imagine being rich beyond the level of comprehension where I can't even imagine how much money Elon has. I can't even imagine 1%. I can't visualize how much money that is. I can't imagine being so empty and moral and bankrupt as a personality of a person that I would care about what these people thought about me. But also the other side is I wouldn't want to go out and hurt them either. And I think that's the other side to it. He wants to hurt people who don't align with him. And I don't understand that. I'm not driven by that. Yeah, it was crazy. It was wild watching this grown man. He's older than me. Watching him be destroyed by these children online, because children online are the worst. Like, as a gamer, like, you log on and nobody will flame you harder than a group of 13-year-olds, man. They will have you call your therapist. But to be that rich beyond any level of comprehension, but be so empty as a person that you require people to constantly validate you. I just don't understand it. But it also goes back to who he was before. And it's a reflection of who he was before. And his reaction isn't to benefit people, it's to hurt people. And so now we're talking to having no moral anchor and just wanting to be liked and win an interaction. And now you're just, everything you do is you see everything as a transaction. There's another powerful guy in our country that sees everything as a transaction. And you see where it's gotten us. Woman just, if he wanted to be impregnated by him, now he wants to get rid of DMs on Twitter. I saw that. And there's something up with that. There's some kind of mental thing with that, because I'm going to inseminate every woman. There is, and I know I've seen some of the other stuff, and now I'm about to get off. I'm about to get off on conspiracy brain stuff here, but it is what it is. There is an underlying philosophy, and I've seen him talk about this on Twitter, where they feel like there's not enough high IQ people, kind of the useless eaters kind of paradox, right? There's not enough high IQ people, and so they have to repopulate the earth with high IQ people. And so he's going to repopulate the earth with high IQ people. Most of them high IQ, in his mind, valuable white people. Like, these are the people that matter, and these are the people that he thinks that are going extinct and whatnot. And that's what his entire viewpoint is. And his thing is, he wants to do it, and he said it before the apocalypse, because he has a weird fascination with the apocalypse. The Mad Max apocalypse, which is bizarre to me, because you are a rich boy from South Africa and you think that you are going to be some warlord in the Mad Max apocalypse, and you're going to be the food, but there's a whole line of, when you trace down and look at what Elon and Peter Thiel, those two guys, the billionaires that are basically the financiers of Trump and JD Vance, they're big huge fans of Curtis Yarvin. And Curtis Yarvin, one of his things is he says that more there are specific groups of people which would be who are more accustomed to be slaves. Like that's kind of his belief, and he believes it's anti-democratic. It's kind of a tech fascism kind of thing, and it ties into having as many uh having as many high IQ white kids and all that other stuff. And that's kind of what that's what this thing is. And that's where it's built into, because Elon's getting celebrated for the same weird shit that Nick Cannon has been doing for years. That man spent more money than I'll ever make on surgeries and trying to make himself. Yeah, and he's made handsome adjacent. Like he's worked hard to be a below average looking individual. Like it's terrifying. He should have just left himself alone and just wrapped into the fact that I have a lot of money, and money in some for some people, money, just the presence of money in your bank account makes you look more attractive. It's a weird thing. He looks ghoulish, like he's being piloted, like like he's being piloted by a vengeful spirit or something. That's what he reminds me of. He looks like he passed on in his sleep, and he looks like he's being piloted by a vengeful spirit. Um like something out of some Japanese horror movie or something. So um he looks like he's put together with spare parts. And he paid a lot of money for that. Right. He paid money for that. But that's how empty he is as a person. That's the thing that makes him feel valuable. And unfortunately, he is who he is. I want everybody to see their intrinsic value as a human being. But sometimes the ship has sailed if you don't see it, and you're circling 50, and you don't see your value as a human being. And you think that, because his thing is, I'm saving the human race by getting us to Mars. Well, if you have the technology to terraform Mars, you have the technology to save the Earth. I think there's a level of that, but then also with the Yarvin and all that other stuff, it's this envisioning that um, it's called accelerationism. So what they're going to do is they're going to hasten the collapse of society by destroying all the institutions society depends on to survive on a day-to-day basis, and then they're going to rule whatever comes after. And so if you've seen these tech cities, like these independent cities that they've built, think there's one in the Bay Area, kind of, where it's a farming community that they're basically doing a hostile takeover of. And then they have some in other countries or whatnot. Um, um, One country, they're actually trying to bankrupt the government and take all the water. And basically, these are tech utopias where there is no democracy. It's kind of run by a board of directors. It's kind of structured like a corporate structure. And that's the world they envision, where they are the rulers and the rest of us are serfs who exist to serve them. Which one? Which is the quote of the day? Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. You have enough money to provide every child with food. Well, and here's the darker part of his personality. He doesn't want to provide every child with food. He doesn't want. He is one of those essentialist kind of people who thinks that the strong are meant to prey on the weak. Well, here's the problem though. He's not strong either. The only thing he has is that, okay. And we talk, the fake concept, the debunked concept of alpha and sigma males and stuff like that. That stuff doesn't really exist. It's a made up concept. Even the guy who coined the phrase alpha male when evaluating wolves, when looking at behaviors of wolves, he's dunked on, he's gotten rid of that. He doesn't believe that anymore. He debunked that entire theory of alpha male, but he believes in that, this alpha male stuff. And the thing is, Elon is a fake alpha. It will be by that definition, he'd be a fake alpha male, because his alpha is only because he has money. He's not strong. He's not physically fit. He's not physically imposing or dominating. He's not athletically skilled. He doesn't have any of the physical characteristics of what would make somebody an alpha. But in this world that we live in, money makes you alpha. And so he's an alpha male because he has access to more resources than everybody else. Right. You're not strong nor rich when you inherit daddy's emerald mine. Yeah. And that's what it is. And so, but in his mind, for him, it's the useless eaters thing where, you know, some people just have to die off in his mind. Some people don't deserve food in his mind, in his world. And that's absolutely what we're careening towards. This weird survival of the fittest, but the people that are determining who's fit aren't fit themselves. You know, Elon can't beat anybody in a fight. Trump can't whoop anybody in a fight. But their alpha male posturing comes from because they have access to resources and stuff like that. You know? Yeah, he didn't build any stuff. He just took other stuff that was built, and it's the American thing. He took something that was already built, slapped his name on it, and then there's stories. If you go look on Twitter, you can find stories of engineers that were at SpaceX where they created a little program that basically they would just put it on computers and it would just run numbers down the screen like the Matrix to make it look like the computer was doing stuff so that he would leave them alone. He would draw up ideas and stuff and hand it to them, and they would redesign stuff to his specifications, knowing it wasn't going to work and knowing he was an idiot. But because he has the money, and they have their livelihoods on the line, they gotta placate the boy king and pretend like they have to give him the Prince Joffrey treatment, where you have to pretend like he is wise and benevolent and all that other stuff. Well, the whole time, this person is a cruel idiot. Yep. It's none of it. He doesn't have an original idea. He hasn't had an original idea. And I don't know if he's ever had one, but it is what it is. Well, so we are all off task, but I do appreciate the conversation. It's been awesome. I'm going to go ahead and give me a follow. Why don't you put, if you're comfortable doing it, I don't want to drive traffic to you if you're not comfortable with it, but if you're comfortable do it, let me know where you're at on social media, and then I can give you a follow and stuff. Because we need a Tyrion to slap the shit out of him. We do, but then he will exhaust every single resource to destroy that Tyrion, just like Joffrey did. I mean, just like Cersei did. She tried to kill Tyrion, knowing full well that he didn't have anything to do with poisoning Joffrey. So yeah, Twitch will be really helpful. All right, cool. So, all right, and maybe I've been playing around with taking this stream to Twitch. I don't know if people want to talk about marketing and any other random topics on Twitch, but I might try to get a presence over there. But absolutely, I'm gonna jump on there and follow you because I do think I have a Twitch account, so I can give you a follow. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you jumping on. And having this, sitting down with me and nerding out on stuff and this wide ranging conversation. I really did hope you got something out of the first part of it, with aligning your brand and stuff. And, I hope it was beneficial is what it is. And I'm on here. The times I'm on here is going to be Central Time, 10:30 on Tuesdays, Central Time. I think 1:30 on Mondays is when I have my regular marketing live stream. And then Fridays is the session more or less is a co-working session. So it's if you got tasks that need to get done, it's an opportunity to kind of body double, because for ADHD brains, body doubling is just having somebody working next to you, and it lets you stay on task a little bit better. Just by having somebody feeling like the presence of somebody else is in the room, it allows you to focus on tasks that aren't as fun. And so that's what this session starts out as is I come on around 11:30 and knock out some work that I have to get done, and we just kind of body double. And I'm just, another person in the room, so that you get the sense that somebody's sitting next to you working. But then also, as you can see, I will turn it into more of a traditional live stream about marketing and social media and stuff. So, but yeah, those are my days that I'm on. I do appreciate you tuning in. Uh, it's Good Friday, and the kids are home, so I'm gonna go upstairs and hang out a little bit. And I hope you have a great weekend. The body doubling. All right, that's what's up. Every Friday, and as I get more time, I'm gonna make it a little bit longer session. So that's why I clicked the body doubling. I hope you got some stuff done. Um, I did too. I got some graphic work done. I got some graphic design work done. Got some website design stuff done, and so it was really a good time. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. This would be huge on Twitch. All right, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna take your word on it, and I'm gonna try to get my Twitch channel up and running for it, and we'll see where it goes. People love this stuff. All right. I'm gonna give it a shot. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off here, and I hope you have a great Friday. Thanks for tuning in. And maybe next time we'll see. When I stream this, you'll be seeing me on Twitch too. So I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. This is Brian with the Unstuck Sessions. Thanks for getting unstuck with me. Talk to y'all later. Have a great Friday. Peace.